Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for coming today, for coming to our virtual annual meeting. Appreciate your time. Just want to kick off you're pretty much going to see a gallery of pictures that I was able to take over the course of our transformation project. Of course, it wasn't just me out on the trail. It was also our engineers that participated from Genesee region, from Allegheny region, and from our Niagara region as well. So it's definitely been a full-on project, all hands on deck. I don't know if anybody remembers, but back in August of 2019, we had a joint public announcement in Canawagas Park in the village of Scottsville in Monroe County. And that joint announcement was between the Ralph Wilson Foundation and New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. And it included the announcement of $6.5 million that we received between those two agencies, as well as DOT. We received a TAP grant, a Transportation Alternative Program grant, which is federal dollars, and that was all in this $6.5 million mix. And so here we are about a year later, a little over a year later, and we have some work to show you. We've been very busy. The project itself, the transformation project as it came to be called, was so long, and due to the different fiscal calendars between the donors, we had to split it into two phases. So phase one is from Route 5 in Avon in Livingston County, and it goes up to Canawagas Park in Village of Scottsville. It's 7 miles, and in that 7 miles, we were repairing culverts, we replaced a bridge, we did some resurfacing with safety upgrades, and we created some amenities. And this particular phase one is costing us somewhere in the ballpark of $2 million. Phase two, I'm going to show you a little bit of what's to come in phase two. And that section is 10 miles long, and that's going to be between Canawagas Park and Genesee Valley Park. In that section, we're going to do some upgrading to some existing trail features. Again, we're going to create some more amenities. We're going to do some resurfacing with safety upgrades and do some trail counting equipment and wayfinding. And that project is looking to be about $1.5 million. We're hopefully going to go out to bid later this month, and phase two is going to begin next spring. So we're about 90% complete with phase one. So let's get on with some of these pictures. This here is what we call the farm culvert. It's over in Caledonia. It's just north of the Erie Attica, which is north of Route 5. This is looking south on the trail. That head wall, that culvert head wall there, is approximately 30 feet long and about 15 feet tall. It's on the east side, and it's a poured concrete wall. Here we have another angle. Once we got the two head walls up, then we had to cut into the trail. And that culvert pipe is 3 feet across. This is again looking south. And I'm sorry, I had to omit someone. I have to multitask. So we're looking south on the trail. And that goes to, there we go. Okay, so here is the before and the after on the farm culvert. The left, you could see the old pipe is in the middle, the center of the picture, and it's half buried. Really doesn't help anyone as far as drainage goes. On the right-hand side, you can see we're looking north on the east side of the outside of the culvert. I know that's a lot of direction there, but that's where we're looking north. So you have a nice before and after picture here. If you look in the midway part of the picture here, you'll see light green grass, and then you see the dark green crop out in the background of this picture. The reason why we put so much effort into this culvert was that the farmer here was having a lot of difficulty with flooding. As you can see, when the crop was planted, it had to go around the flooding, which is what the light green was. So this was the time, we had a good time to do it. So we decided to fix this issue, and now the farmer can use his field next year in its entirety. All right, we also did some culvert work. This is called White Creek Culvert. This is just a little south of where we just were, but it's also in Caledonia. This is some before and after pictures. On the left, you see that we had some trees growing out of the culvert. There's a lot of organic matter there on top. And the organic matter, it's a 50-50. It stabilizes, but the roots also causes damage over time. So it's really not the way to go as far as maintaining your culverts. On the right here, you can see they took out a lot of organic material and they put the capstones. Those are the large flat stones that you see on top there. A lot of work went into those capstones. Just a couple of pictures here on the left, you see them, they were cutting them right there on site. And then they had to lower them down with the crane and just muscle them right in there and then mortar them. A lot of work, a lot of physical labor went into these. This is on the east side, same culvert. And you can see before and after they were scooping out the organic material. And then now we have a nice capstones. You see a lot of the cobble-sized stones that we put on top of the capstones to assist with stabilization of the trail and so forth. Because that was one of the bigger issues, was it was eroding into the trail. And we weren't about to lose that. So that's another culvert. One of the things we wanted to do was to remove this bridge here, this railroad bridge. It really wasn't a great bridge to begin with. There was a lot of issues with it. And so we thought this was a good time for its removal. Just because though we removed it doesn't mean we couldn't use some of it. So on the left side, you see the crane removing the handrails. And on the right, you see the decking of the bridge there that's being carted off to be used on another project. This is once we remove the decking. This is about a 20-foot gap that we had here. Interesting enough, a lot of people called this different things. We called it the railroad bridge. Some people called it the cattle crossing. Others called it a box culvert. When in actuality, we found an overhead clearance sign on the outside of the bridge. So it was actually a road under there, which nobody was really expecting until we saw that. We found that old bridge sign, which was pretty interesting. So we put a new decking on the bridge. This was precast concrete bridge decking. There were about, I'm going to say 4 to 5 sections. I honestly don't remember how many I saw, but each was about 6 to 8 tons each section. So it's definitely going to be able to handle anything we give it in the future that's going over it. Here you see a before and an after. Now, the after picture on the right isn't completely finished. What's really going to be awesome about this bridge is that the trail surfacing is going to be on the bridge as well. So you're really not even going to know that you're on a bridge, other than obviously the railings is going to give that hint. But by surface wise, it's going to be the same surface as on the trail as on the bridge, which will be a really, really nice feature. One of the things that we're trying to do, again, we're trying to reuse things as we see fit. And so some of the reclaimed canal culvert stones are being used on either end of the bridge approach to dress them up a little bit and to incorporate our history. Now this is Dugan Creek in Caledonia. This is a sensitive wetland south of Lehigh Valley Trail. We have lots of critters in this area. We've got mink and bobcat and heron, hawk and eagles, and of course beaver, which is what caused the issues that we had here. The beaver over the years chewed through a fence and the culvert system got compromised. And so we had a lot of flooding on this area. This section holds approximately 30 million gallons of water. It doesn't look it, but it's an estimate. And so because it's such a sensitive area, we had to work closely with DEC on the design and the process of how we were going to go about fixing our culvert system. So once they approved the permit, we had 5 days to de-water, to remove the old, build the new, and to restart the flow. And as you can imagine, dealing with 30 million gallons, it was quite challenging for all the crews. I really have to hand it to our engineering crew in those 3 regions, our project manager and everyone involved. They really did an excellent job of keeping tabs on things, and not to mention Killer Construction, which was a construction crew working through it. They were very concerned about the wetland sensitivity as well. And so we were all on board with wanting to do the best thing, the best way we could. But we all knew that at the end of the day, in order to make that omelet, you have to crack some eggs. And so we were just trying to do it the best that we could. The plan was well thought out. So being that we only had 5 days to do everything, the crews worked 24 hours a day for those 5 days straight. And all aspects were monitored. And as things happened or things changed, then the plan was tweaked and everything to accommodate whatever it was that needed to be changed. So use the phragmites, the reeds in this picture. You can look at, just remember where the water level is and using the reeds there as your guide. And now look at the next picture here on the left. This is taken the same spot, but a little further back. You can see the water is quite less now. And that is actually between the reeds that you see, that is a beaver lodge. And there is quite a nice current going underneath that lodge as well. So we had to dewater that even a little more after that. And I'm giving you another before and after picture. So if you look on the right-hand side, this picture is also a before picture before we started dewatering it. But I wanted to show you the grate, that metal grate there in the middle on the bottom. That's very important. That's where the actual culvert is. There's kind of a waterfall underneath there. That grate is the top. Imagine a concrete box that goes into the ground about 20 feet or so, maybe even more. That's what's underneath that grate. And so all the draining occurs under that grate. So just take a look at that now. And the next picture, you see the grate from the last picture is now on the bottom right of the left picture. So it's just off the picture. That's where the big blue culvert pipe goes into. And as you can see, we put a nice fence around that culvert end. So this way it gives the beaver a nice challenge again. As you can see on the right picture is the same apparatus, only looking from the opposite way. And in the forefront of that picture, you can see a wooden deck being built. That's actually going to be a pier for us to be able to reach the end of the culvert and maintain the culvert moving forward. And the decking for that pier was the decking that we took from the bridge that you saw being carted away in the truck in one of the earlier pictures. Okay, so let's get to some trail resurfacing. This was the whole real major part of the project. What this picture is showing you the milled surface, the removal of the top surface of the organics, pretty much. And they would take a couple of inches depending on the height and what we needed. It varied throughout. Then we have our second and third stages of laying the base layer of a couple inches of crusher run, and then we backfilled the trail shoulders. Definitely had to be well choreographed. There's not a lot of room to maneuver on the trail, and so everything had to be very precise in the order of what happened. Then the fourth stage is to add the layer of stone dust and apply pressure and water and roll, roll, roll. And then we added the hydro seeding. That's the mix of grass seed that it's like super grass seed. It started growing within a week. The stuff was pretty amazing. While we were doing the trail resurfacing, we did have some special requested areas. The picture on the left is how the trail was resurfaced in the Dugan Creek area. Remember, that was a wetland area. So we couldn't just mill everything off the top like we did elsewhere. We did very minimal milling so we wouldn't hurt the sensitive area. And then the trail was built up from there. So all that vegetation you see on the left-hand side of the screen wasn't hydroseeding. That was just the natural flora that just survived during the trail creation there. On the right-hand side, you see it's a farm lane intersection. A lot of the farm equipment, of course, nowadays is a lot bigger than it used to be, and our trail was definitely hurting because of it. So at all the farm lanes where we resurfaced, we beefed it up with more material so the trail wouldn't feel the effects as much. And so here you have a nice before and after. With all the work that was done, in my opinion, the trail on the right was just taken the picture was taken about 2 weeks ago, and it looks like it's been there for a bit. It's new, but it also belongs there. It doesn't look so out of character or out of place. Of course, with every project, you have your hurdles. So we had some folks that chose to, not be as nice. And so we got some donuts from a mini bike or some sort of dirt bike that was done in the Lehigh Valley Trail area. Quite a bit of damage was done there. Then we have folks that are patient. They want to use the trail, and I don't blame them. It's a great trail, and we had some gorgeous days that we were closed during. But as you can see on the right side, those are horse hoof prints that did some damage as well that had to be fixed. The trail, the surface needs time to cure, and only time will make that happen. And so this is why it's taken a little while for us to open up that trail, because we needed to cure. The bottom picture, it simply shows weather. I mean, it was a rain, a gully washer that just came in, a lot of rain at once. And again, the trail wasn't cured yet. It wasn't finished. So we had to go back and fix a couple of different things along the way. One of the interesting features of this project was that when they were working on some of the stone culverts, some of them were beyond repair, and so they had to switch them out. And so we were reclaiming some of these stones from those culverts. And our preservation efforts were focused on alternative ways to save the past. And so some of the stones were quite large. Some of them, like the barrel type stone on the bottom left that you see the gentleman measuring, that's our project manager, Nate. Those are like barrel stones, I believe they call them, and they can be up to 6 feet long. Some of the other stones, like the ones in the middle you see, have an interesting concave shape to them. Some of those could be about 4 feet wide. And so we were dealing with some really heavy stones. The picture on the right-hand side is what we reshaped these stones into. I mean, the stones back then were shaped what they needed then. Now we're turning them into what we need now. So we flattened off some of the ends on some of them. We cut up some of the other ones. And check out what we've made. We've made some amenities. We created a picnic table. The picture on the left, I'll never forget that day being out there with the guys. It was painstaking to watch them. They were trying to line up those big rocks on about 3 bolt holes. That was very difficult to find, as you can see. They were down on the ground and doing the best that they could. And then we had when they were putting things together, they mortared the benches and the tabletop to the stone there. That wood is white oak from North Carolina. And so now we have rest stops, which with these awesome, very unique picnic tables. Along with the picnic tables, we also tried a new design for bike racks. These are some of the the old canal stones that we cut with a special saw. And it was pretty much if you could picture a chainsaw that was on steroids. This thing was huge and bulky. It had a special chain, obviously, but it was able to cut through these rocks. Some of the rocks, they didn't take the cuts very well. Others took them and were fine, so we were able to use them. So now we've created these rest stops. So this is a rest stop now located, this one is at White Creek. So if you remember a couple of slides back that we did the culverts capstones over here. So you've got some really awesome features to look at here. Each rest stop does have a picnic table and a bike rack. And the other picnic table I showed you before was at Dugan Creek. So now we've got 2 rest stops, and we're pretty happy about that. The last amenity that we created were horse mounting blocks. As you can see in the upper left, we took a couple of slices of some of the barrel stones, and then we poured a concrete base. This particular set of mounts is South Canawagas Park. The picture in the middle is not completely finished. There was some fine tuning, some finishing mortar and grinding work that still needed to be done, but this gives you a good idea as to what the final picture is going to look like. So now we have some amenities for our horse folks as well. Just want to give a quick shout out to our neighbors. We couldn't do it without you. We had 5 lanes, or I should say the construction folks had 5 lanes to that were established to gain access to the Greenway within the 7-mile project. Now remember, you can only drive one direction. You can't pass each other. You're doing 10 miles an hour. There was a 3 strike and you're out program, and thankfully we didn't have to kick anybody out because they weren't going over 10 miles an hour. Everyone was awesome. But like I said before, it was a lot of choreography that had to be done. Imagine seeing this line of trucks coming in and out of these fields day in and day out, not day in and day out, but every day, line after line. It was a lot of work, and we definitely appreciate our neighbors that helped us allow us to do it. So now we're just going to go into a couple of sketchings of what's going on in phase 2. Remember, this is from Catawaugus Park to Genesee Valley Park. That's the 10 miles. However, the 2 miles through the Genesee Valley Park, which makes our connection to the Genesee River Trail and the Erie Canal and Empire State Trail, it's only going to be wayfinding and trail counting, as that location is already paved. So the resurfacing ends at Ballantyne Road. So here north of Catawaugus Park, our trail crosses Scottsville Road just south of the I-90 overhead. And it's quite, I've seen worse crossings, but I've seen better crossings. And this is a crossing that we're definitely working on. We can't do it alone though. DOT has some old style guardrails there, which we can't touch, but Parks has some guardrails that we can. And so we do have some room to move. And so we're gonna add some features. We're gonna add some, again, the horse mounting blocks so folks can cross that safely. We're gonna add more room in the area so people can get across as well. So we're looking to, for that to be one of the first larger projects of this phase. And then the I-90 overpass, I'm looking at this as more of a future tech stop. We want people to just pull over for a little bit, but we're not looking for people to stay overnight. It's not an overnight invitation. If you've ever been under there, it's quite loud and it's quite the experience. But it is good to have just to get out of one of those Western New York pop-up thunderstorms, or if you need a break from the sun or adjust your gear or whatnot, it's nice to have a little place to do that. And so we're adding some benches, a possible picnic table. We're just gonna make it more aesthetically pleasing. We're going to add an art component. We're going to, I don't have a rendition of this, but if you would picture our Greenway in a large metal map form, that's going to be underneath. And we're also working with the I-90 bridge maintenance folks. So this way, anything that we do will not get in their way, because we have to work on this together. So the last we want to do is get in each other's way or have to take out something that we just put in. So we're kind of excited. And if you could see the upper left inset picture, that's what it looks like now. So there's definitely room for some beautification in there. Now, this is really exciting. This is our Lock 2. It is just south of Brook Road, north of Morgan Road. Actually, I have Scottsville up there. I'm sorry, I think that's Rochester. My bad if it's on the border and if I mislabeled it there. But we're looking for this to be a rest stop. It's the best lock that we have. So we're looking to put some picnic tables and benches. And the best feature of all is we're looking to put a trail right through the lock. So you'll be able to walk through the lock and just get a different perspective of what it was like. We're gonna have steps on one side. If we have enough of the canal stone, we're gonna try and make the steps out of canal stone. We're not sure if we have enough right now yet. And the other end is gonna be a very slow grade, a very a minimum grade. So everyone would be able to get down there and enjoy that. There's also gonna be some water markers to show people where the water levels were. And it's just the beginning of the interpretation here. I see there's a lot of potential in this spot. So I'm glad that we're able to just open the door to some really great opportunities here at this lock. Here's just another quick perspective. We're a pergola. And again, this is just renditions. They're not exact. We've tweaked them since we've received these renditions, but I didn't have anything newer to show you. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. We're going to have the pergola and a safer viewing area so that folks don't fall in accidentally. And you don't see the picnic tables in this picture, but it's a nice picture of the pergola with some shade. And now this is my final and last slide. This is north of Ballantyne Road and wasn't actually initially part of the phase 2, but we were able to acquire what we call the Spectre property. And the property is actually, if you see where the trees are, then you see the top of the parcel. There's a dirt road going to the right, and then you see Scottsville Road going off to the right. That's kind of a triangular piece of property, and we're looking to develop that as time moves on. It's definitely going to have a nice parking lot, and it's going to be a good trailhead for sure. But for now, all we're doing is we're going to put the trail through here. Those of you that might know this section of trail, you're walking through a parking lot right now. So we're going to keep this on park property, and hence we'll be able to close a gap and have one less gap than we had before. And I just want to thank you again for your time today and for supporting the Greenway, and just looking forward to seeing what the future has in store for all of us.
Okay, everyone, can you hear me? I think, are there questions for Kristine? If there are, you can type them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. If you put your cursor over your name, you should get a hand, I've been told. If you raise your hand, I'll unmute you and you can ask your questions. Are there any questions? Okay, one question from April Miller. Are you documenting the reuse items so in future we can say where those stones came from?
Good question, April. Yes, actually, there is going to be some sort of interpretation. I'm not sure what it's going to look like right now, but yes, when anything that we reused, especially the decking, we always find those are really good stories. People want to hear that kind of stuff. So it will be advised, just not sure what it's going to look like yet.
Okay. Anyone else have a question? Okay. Plans for the Black Creek crossing? Are there plans?
I'm going to guess that's the double arch culvert. We are still working on that. I know we skipped that little area there because we're still working on that decision. That's a lot of money that it's going to cost, and we want to make the right decision and not just spend the money frivolously.
Maybe you can tell Kristine what's happened to date, because there has been some work done. I mean, as far as trying to move forward with that.
You're right, Joan. We've been working with, one of the main problems is that we have the Monroe County sewer line, and the Sunoco fuel line goes over the double arch culvert. And so with the culvert failing, that was a very huge concern for everyone. I know it caused me to lose a few nights sleep just thinking about it sometimes. But so far, Monroe County has removed their line, and Sunoco is in the process of working through the extensive permitting process to remove their line. So yes, we have made a little bit of progress on it.
Right, and that really had to be done before